Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching my previous video on Seed Freedom. I didn't think it was going to do so well, but I guess it makes sense because it's pretty topical given the fact that it just came out yesterday. So now I want to give a little bit more. I was going to do a kind of a play-by-play of the story. I think it's kind of boring. I just wanted to kind of go into a little bit more details of things I liked and what I didn't like. So full spoilers, I'm going to be giving away important plot points. So please, if you don't want to know what's going on, turn off now. Okay, so some things I really liked. I liked the character development of this movie. Why? Because Kira is not Kira, right? He's not seen as this sort of godly figure. They don't treat him that way. Kind of. At the end, he gets this upgrade where he just basically wipes everyone out. And, through the power of love with him and Lacus, they take down the enemies, but it's not as egregious as you might think it would be. So the movie opens up So starting with Kira first, the movie opens with him fighting. He's telling Shin and the rest of them to stay back because he doesn't want the battles to get any worse. And Kira's shown to be fatigued, which is already the first chink in his sort of Superman armor that we're so used to seeing in Seed Destiny. It's not really here. He's in the Rising Freedom, which is supposed to be stronger than the Strike Freedom, but on a technical level, it doesn't really look to be that much more impressive. Well, the cockpit is really cool. They do got that cool 360 view. Finally, he's caught up to the new Gundam. But it's a pretty cool suit. I do like the Rising Freedom design. But the thing is, Kira's working on this new upgrade. So Durandal dies at the end of Destiny, and, Kira's got to live with what happened during that time, with that decision, And so he's wondering, was this Destiny plan, was this the right thing to do? Maybe the Destiny plan was correct. Freedom versus Destiny. It's supposed to be thematic, right? And this is all the while Lacus is heading this thing called Compass, which is where Kira and Shin and Luna Maria and this new person, Agnes, it's basically like Zaft. They're like the world police. They go in and try to help and stop things. So she's trying to do some boring delegation stuff. But Kira doesn't have a lot of time for her recently because he's dealing with his own things. He's become a salaryman, nonetheless, and he's coming home late. She's falling asleep early without him. So there's a growing rift in their relationship. So the movie sets that up. Again, which I thought was pretty good because you would just think, oh, I love you, Kira. I love you, Lacus. No, it's, it shows their everyday life and it's not perfect. Sure, they live in a super billionaire mansion and they drive Lamborghinis and stuff. It's very like soap opera-like, right? Like where high class living is taken as the norm. I don't know. I just always thought I thought it was really funny here. I thought that was really good the way they handled Kira. And throughout the whole movie, he's challenging himself. He's wondering, I'm not good enough for Lacus. Lacus gets a new love interest in this guy, Lam Tao. He is from another nation called Foundation, which I talked about in the other video. And Foundation, they got the Black Knights there, which is basically the new rival group. There's no subtle hints. They're the bad guys, right? As soon as they land, they're doing the typical anime faces, like, ooh, who's these guys? Well, okay, well, obviously they're not good. Kira even has like a new type flash. Kira loses too. There's a part where he gets hypnotized. And there's a reason for it, right? It's convoluted. The whole story's a little bit convoluted. But, Kira goes AWOL for a half a second. He goes towards the borders he's not supposed to because he thinks he sees, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Murray, I believe he was chasing. And what happens is these Black Knight guys basically set off missiles, basically framing Kira and the rest of them, giving the Foundation an excuse to attack the Compass people, right? But just take Locks with them. This entire time things are happening, Kira doesn't win the fights. I mean, there was another moment where you would think he was going to die, but he doesn't. Of course, it's almost become a running joke at this point. So because of Kira's actions, Compass is basically disavowed and the Foundations are going to go after them. And yeah, he's shown to struggle. I mean, there's a scene where him and Athrun get into a fist fight. So I was surprised because Athrun whoops his ass. He's supposed to be this ultimate coordinator. Athrun beats him in a fist fight. He beats some sense into him. And then this is finally where Kira's resolve is sort of fixed, right? Because throughout the whole movie, there's a few moments where Lacus, meets this guy Lao Tom, and they're basically made for each other. It's, again, pretty convoluted, but it turns out that Lacus, she's also a coordinator, right? She was essentially made to be a princess, made to marry this loud Tom guy. They're supposed to basically rule the universe together. And so that's why when they meet each other, they have this connection, and Kira immediately he picks up on that, like something's wrong. And Locus even doesn't even know what it is. She's like, well, why do I keep feeling this way? So their rift continues to grow. Anyways, Kira's development was good. I like Shin's too. Was very surprising because I thought he was going to be whiny and angry the whole time, but he wasn't. He wanted approval, right? He's like, hey, I was very moved by the way Kira told me that he wanted to fight together with me, and now it's not like he doesn't want to fight with us, so what's going on? And he has to also live up to the fact that he's the freedom killer, right? So people are like, okay, are you really as good as you say? There's a scene when he's at Foundation, and these Black Knight guys, they're sword fighting. And, one of them throws the sword or hits the sword away and it lands in front of Kira. And they're like, oh, Kira, why don't you fight? And then Shin's like, no, I'll do it. So Shin loses the sword fight to these guys. And that's, again, his thing, right? This is a fight he's lost. It gets close to his neck and he's like, oh, no. So that's a blow to his confidence. So Shin's he's trying to vibe from this attention from Kira and this acceptance from everyone, right? There's the scene when Kira and Athrun are getting in their fist fight. Shin tries to jump in, and he gets pulled away, and they're like, no, just, let these two figure it out. He doesn't have any love for Athrun at this point. And he's trying to suck up to Kira. But finally, actually, the biggest surprise for me was Shin was piloting the Immortal Justice. I was, okay. I didn't expect that. I mean, it didn't say that in the press release or anything, so they kept that as a nice little surprise. I thought that was cool. Spoiler alert, again, he gets the Destiny, right? The Destiny is still around, and at the end, Kira leaves it up to him. He says, hey, Shin, you gotta watch the ship, okay? So Shin's like, yes, okay. And those Black Knight guys, they come for him. They're like, we beat you down 1,000,000 times. When will you learn? And Shin just goes seed mode. He essentially wrecks them. And this was the one thing I really liked, because with seed mode is always sort of, it's one of those things where it happens, the pilot does some cool maneuver, and it just looks like the other pilot that they're fighting against just like forgets how to move. So these Black Knight guys are supposed to be like super fast, they got all this technology, they withstand beams. So there was one moment where Destiny kind of does a few like spins and hits with the swords. I thought that was awesome. I wish the movie would have did more with the seed stuff. So Shin was good, Kira was good, Athrun, perfect, my favorite character ever. The way, oh my gosh, when you think everything's going wrong, you think the world is doomed, the Black Knights are gonna win, Athrun shows up and it's like, yes! Just, he comes in, I think he's in like a Gelgoog or a Zegok or something like that, and he's fighting with this Black Knight guy who's in his souped out mobile suit, and they're fighting basically evenly. Oh my gosh, this is perfect for Athrun fanboys and girls. And then at the end, oh my gosh, this was I was wondering, because I saw when Shin gets the Destiny and Kira gets Strike Freedom, Justice is there, Infinite Justice. You're like, okay, when's this gonna come out? So at the end fight, you're just kind of waiting. Athrun, he pilots the Strike Freedom to throw off the enemies, which I thought was a good touch, but then he shows up, I think it's in a Gelgoog again or something. It hits one of the Black Knights he's fighting, pierces his eye, the machine's eye, and then it just glows green, and the Infinite Justice pops out of it. I was like, okay. It's so... I should have expected it, but it was so good. I was like, oh, yes. And of course, Athrun goes seed mode and doesn't lose. A beam shoots out of Justice's head, and he just like kills the guy. That's one of those moments where it's like, okay, I wish they would have showed something cool, like Justice like beam kicks the crap out of him or something. That would have been awesome. It didn't really work out that way, but it was still cool. So that was great. The three main characters, they got a lot of love. The new characters were okay. Agnes was, she was a little bit weird, but she's a character who wanted attention, right? She wanted Kira. She knew Locus was off with Tao, so she's trying to get with Kira, and then Kira's like, no, you don't understand anything. So then she goes to the Black Knights. So essentially she betrays Compass, and at the end when Kira's about to die, she comes in and takes out the Freedom. Actually, she's the one who cuts it down before Athrun comes in and saves the day. So her arc was interesting, and then at the end, her and Luna Maria have their battle. So Luna Maria's already been through this kind of situation, not to Agnes's extreme, and it was nice at the end. it repeats Destiny again. There's a lot of repeating themes here and repeating sort of callbacks. Sorry, if you've watched the previous shows, you're going to notice and pick up on a lot of things. I thought it was cool. I thought the references and the callbacks were nice. Another thing I liked was, all the characters that show up. You got things like Mulaflago, who I love. Murray is there, as always, leading the way with Compass. Then you get Isaac and Derica come back too. So those guys are always great, and they come out and help at the end. Cagley too has a better role, and I like the way her and Atherin's romance is actually resolved at the end. Right, there's a scene at the end where they're trying to hypnotize and stuff like that, and Cagley is basically the reason why Atherin doesn't get taken over like Kira had earlier. Eventually Locus becomes the reason Kira is freed from their control. And there's a scene with Shin, and it made me laugh. I think they did this as a joke because they try to get into his head, and then a giant Stella comes out with like monster teeth, and they're because their whole thing is like taking control of the darkness of someone's heart. It's almost like Babidi and Dragon Ball and the Majin thing. So they try to do it with Shin, and they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's too dark, the darkness, it's too dark. So I thought that was like hilarious. They're in the middle of this battle, and they say that. It was so funny. The mech fights I thought were good. I mean, they weren't the best in every Gundam series, out of every Gundam series I've ever seen, but they were pretty solid, and the designs were pretty good too. I loved seeing the IJ, the SF, or the Destiny come back. I loved the choreography was pretty solid when it was new stuff. There was one fight I thought was interesting. It was the Strike Freedom fight, actually, at the end, where he's not winning, really, because they make the note that the Strike Freedom's outdated at this point, which doesn't really seem like, it felt like a convenient excuse because he gets an upgrade afterwards. But there's like moments where he's like kind of dodging and dipping, and like the Freedom's funnels make like barriers and stuff, just like kind of quick, cool cuts like that I thought were awesome. Now I'm going to talk about some things I didn't like so much. So the first one is the constant, they wrote at the bottom of the screen basically every time they changed the location. It felt like, it's like, okay, I get it, I know where we are. Like almost like every scene was like, okay, Orb, Eurasia, Foundation, Orb again, same time Orb. Like they're basically hand holding you the entire time. It's like, all right, we get it. This is what's going on. That was kind of annoying. There was a little bit of reused animation. I was like, wait a minute, didn't the Freedom just do that? There was a couple scenes with the Rising Freedom in the beginning that stuck out. And then, even at the end fight, Destiny does the pose. But, that's an iconic shot, so I'm glad they put that in there at least. So there's a little bit of reused animations. Just the animation in general, I was a little bit disappointed because I was hoping that with a movie budget, they would really do something that stood out and looked just completely, just blow everything away. It felt like a higher budgeted TV special, and it's, it is what it is, right? It didn't feel like this huge, massive production, which is a little disappointing. And, the face, a little bit of the same face thing going on, but again, it's Seed. It's iconic. Lots of flashbacks too, as if like they tried to fit recap episodes into the thing. I'm pretty sure they reused the same flashbacks when they kept saying like, "Is that okay? Is that really what you want?" And they, to make you think of the past, right? It shows the events from Seed and Destiny people dying, Raul the Cruz dying, and then Nicole, and they showed him die like 3 or 4 times to really hammer it home. Like, oh, you remember this stuff was really bad. It was really bad. The hand holding, it was kind of I felt it was unnecessary because it kind of felt like it just didn't need to be there. It's like, we got it. In fact, I like when they don't show so much because it's like, okay, I remember that happening. You don't have to show me 3 or 4 times. I swear they show it like 3 or 4 times, the same flashbacks. It's like, really? Is it really necessary? But this is coming from a show with 4 recap episodes in each series, so I guess it is what it is. The plot was a little bit too been there, done that for me. Like, of course, Foundation are going to be the bad guys, right? Because you go there, okay, the main guy, he's kind of good looking, he's got the things for Locus, all right, and, the setup isn't bad. I like the idea of these guys having, their suits, the Black Knights. You can't shoot their suits down with normal beams. I was hoping for a little bit more creativity. In the end, Shin just whoops them all with the sword, which is ironic because they beat him in the sword fight, so that's probably what they were going for. They just swords them and whoops their ass that way. Thought it was funny, but again, it felt a little bit predictable. Although I will say this, it wasn't, Kira does get this upgrade. He does kind of destroy a bunch of missiles and save the ships and this and that. But really, at the end of the day, it's Shin who saves the day. He's the one who destroys the cannon. He takes down the Black Knights, most of the Black Knights, 4 of them, and they're all supposed to be really, really strong. And he, defends the ship. So good on Shin. I thought that was nice. Kira's like, all right, it's up to you now, and he gets his validation finally. So I thought that was a nice point. But I was like, okay, well, here we go. We got another cannon, and it's like, oh, hey, by the way, we're sitting on this Requiem. Oh, yeah, the giant super cannon, and they just start firing it like crazy. And they, there's a lot of scenes in there that are pretty shocking. It's sad. You see like the little girl. Oh, the snow's coming, and then she gets evaporated. But just the way it happens in the movie, it feels like it doesn't give us a second to like take the shock in. It happens. These horrible things happen. These cities are like blown away, and then already we move on to Orb. It's like, oh yeah, Eurasia was like very bad, I guess. Oh no, but because it's a movie, the pacing's got to go along quickly. They don't really sit there and sulk in it, which I think the movie kind of needed that breathing room a little bit to let these tragedies set in before just, okay, moving on to the next one. And it's always Orb, right? That's the thing. So the last bastion now is Orb. Orb's going to get attacked by this moon satellite because basically they launched their operation. Again, it feels a little bit like Destiny, doesn't it? It's like, we got to protect Orb at all costs, no matter what. Like, of course. But it feels like it was already done before. I will say the messaging is nice. So, the whole movie, Lacus is fighting against her destiny and her freedom, actually. The movie's a lot about her, too, because she was basically made as a coordinator to marry this Tao guy. And so, is it, okay, do I follow the destiny, or do I choose freedom, which is to be with Kira? So, in the end, of course, she chooses her own freedom. She doesn't follow, she has the freedom to choose her own destiny. She goes with Kira. This Tao guy is like super mad, he fights them at the end, but Lacus sends over this pack to Kira. He takes on the guy, and then they save the day. I love it. Lacus is like standing there, like she's like Jesus Christ or something. It's so over the top, but it's funny. They fight together. It's a cute little moment. Not for nothing though. The fan service, right? She like gets in the thing, and they're like all showing scenes of her behind, and the jiggle physics and stuff. I was like, okay, really? Oh, it's ridiculous, but I don't know. It wouldn't be Seed without it. This movie was just so Seed, and I don't want to say I loved it because there was a lot of things that were annoying. Like at the very end, I like that they try to subvert you a little bit by having Athrun in Athrun in the Freedom. Kira gets on the ship, tries to save Lacus. I wish they would have did a little bit something more heisty, right? Rather than just have guns ablaze and blah. I wish there would have been like real planning, like a real heist with like real stakes. I mean, there were stakes, but it felt like, okay, they're just going to pull this off. Right, I wish there was a little bit more of that urgent sense of danger, because this is my thing with Destiny. There's no loss, right? The only big loss is the Archangel is destroyed in this movie. With Seed, there's a lot of destruction. Things happen. People die left and right. Destiny, some people die, but they're not main characters, right? And it's the same. Like, everyone's very close to dying, but in the end, nothing happens. There's no loss. And it's great, not every movie someone has to die, but the only loss being the Archangel, and of course the millions of people dying. Of course that's bad, but realistically in the context of the story with the main characters, there are no heavy deaths, so it kind of feels like yay, we saved the day, woo, sort of thing. So I don't know, it was a very Seed. It was I loved the parts with Athrun. That was great. I loved Shin's stuff. And, Kira wasn't so bad. I'm happy the direction they went in with him. And this feels like a good wrap-up to Seed. I feel like I don't know where they can go I don't think they should go anywhere else with this. We've gotten all we need to. Maybe Shin could have another story. I think that would be cool. But I think this is it. I think this is a good send-off. We can stop the series here. Could it have been better? Yes. Do I still keep that 8 rating? Just because I love Athrun, it gets an 8. That's it. No, and again, there's some good stuff in there too. So I can't take it all away. I can't say it was like terrible. It wasn't. If you like Seed, you're gonna love this movie. Don't worry. sorry, my thoughts are I rambled on a little bit here because, like I said, with this video, I wasn't sure how I was going to do this, and I kind of just firing from the hip, so to speak. Maybe I'll do a breakdown when the movie comes out, and I can kind of give a breakdown of the story as the movie progresses. But no, these are just some things I liked. Overall, it was pretty good. Again, some things that could have been fixed: animation, constant hand holding, not necessary, but it was fun. It's a good movie. Gundam Seed Freedom. I hope everyone can give it a watch. Hopefully it's released worldwide soon. But please let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you plan on watching this? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.